Hello friends, my name is Bintou and welcome back to my channel for today's video, which is going to be my June TBR. So I haven't done a TBR video in a really long time, or at least like a standalone TBR video, but I recently decided to sign up for Book of the Month. Their advertising like finally got to me, I suppose. So I figured one of the parts of this video will be just me going through and deciding which book I want to pick, because I'm sure a lot of people on here have their subscription. I decided to go with it because I realized what I was doing is I would go to their website and find their books and then buy them anyway. So I figured at this point I might as well just subscribe to them. The only thing holding me back is, of course, they send out physical books and I prefer ebooks, but at the same time, I can just take those books when I'm done and just resell them. So at least there is that benefit. So with that said, let's start with me going through and trying to pick out my June book from Book of the Month. All right, and we're back. And it is finally June. So I can go through the Book of the Month picks. Today's June 2nd, so they were technically available yesterday. I just didn't have time to film. So let's go ahead and open up the Book of the Month app. So I want to try them out for a couple months and see if it's something I want to continue with. From the time that I've had with Book of the Month, the few gripes that I have with them is that, first of all, you can't pick your books for the month until the first of that month, which would be fine, except they do take a while to ship. So by the time they get here, half of the month is already gone. So it's weird that I would get a May, or like, I guess in this case, a June month, when it's like pretty much almost July. That, and if you ever do want to cancel your membership, you do have to call them up, which I hate when companies make you do that, because it's like, we know why they do it, but it's really annoying. So here are the June books. The first one, Instructions for Dancing. This is a young adult, so we can just skip right past that because I am just not gonna read any young adults. Then we have a contemporary fiction, Sky Falling. They say don't put all your eggs in one basket, but they never mention what to do when an egg walks back into your life. I'm gonna have to read more on that. I don't know what that is about. Half Sick of Shadows. This is a fantasy. Okay, so I'm not a huge fantasy reader. However, this cover looks really nice. An epic feminist retelling of Arthurian legend. Sometimes you need a crystal ball to crack a glass ceiling. I'll keep this on for now. Okay, so they have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides here, and this is a book that I'm definitely gonna read. I don't know if I wanna make this my book of the month because I know I'm gonna read this. I think I may have already pre-ordered the Kindle. I'm gonna have to double check on that. However, if I do get the physical book, I can just cancel that pre-order. I don't know. I want to use this to try something new because I already know that I'm gonna read this. There's Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So Taylor Jenkins Reid is the author of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I read that book. That book is super popular on BookTube. I thought it was okay. Like, yes, there's like this twist, and it was mostly okay, but I was not that impressed with it. So I don't know if she is, or if Taylor Jenkins Reid is like a must read for me. So I think I'm gonna pass on this one. It's gonna come down to Sky Falling and Half Sick of Shadows. So, or The Maidens. Okay, so after some minor deliberation that I had to cut out because it took way too long, I decided, so first of all, I read a little bit more about Sky Falling, and the talk about the eggs in one basket has to do with the fact that the main character donated some of her eggs, and one of them became a person, which then found her back. So that sounds like a pretty cool contemporary fiction. The Half Sick of Shadows is a retelling of a King Arthur legend, and I am not very familiar with that. So I know that the retellings the more modern retellings of older stories that I read by like Madeline Miller, I've really loved for sure. I think I want to wait to hear more about what other people think about this book. In the end, I think I'm gonna make The Maidens my book of the month because this is the one that I am certain of that I really actually did want to read. So let's make The Maidens my book of the month. I'm not gonna choose any add-ons. Like, for the most part, I prefer digital reading, so that's why I'm giving book of the month a try to see if I'll actually read the physical books and not just go buy the Kindle versions of these books. So let's just go ahead and check out with this. All right, so I went ahead and selected as my book of the month, and they're gonna go ahead and ship that out soon. I'll include this if I can figure out a way to blur out my address. All right, so I'm super excited to get The Maidens here and to read that. Like, that was in one of my anticipated reads over the next couple of months. I made that video a short while ago. Maybe next month I'll have more luck in choosing a book that is sort of more new to me rather than a book that I had already known that I was gonna read, which isn't bad. I mean, it just killed two birds with one stone, I guess, in a way. Now let's get back to some of the other books that I'm planning on reading this month. All right, other books that I'm really looking forward to reading this month. The first one is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And the audiobook for this is available in Audible, or did I buy it? I can't remember. I can't remember if it's part of Audible or if I used the credit, but I do currently have it in Audible. And this is an approach to minimalism in sort of our digital world. So last month I read a book on minimalism just in general, but this book focuses on, I guess, social media and notifications like your cell phone and just all the distractions digitally that we have in our lives. It throws me back to like the book I read last year called Make Time, which had to do with trying to weed out distractions, particularly digital distractions that are related to like your cell phone and things like that. So it'll be interesting to hear this take, especially since this is a really, really popular book in, I guess, the productivity sector. The next thing I want to read is Vatas War. And the reason that I picked this up is for two reasons. First of all, I picked up the graphic audiobook of this. Graphic Audio was having a sale. It was like 40% off or something like that, which was really neat. So I was able to snatch these up for a steal. And I have been really, really wanting to listen to another graphic audiobook. Over the summer, last summer, I had listened to The Way of Kings by Graphic Audiobook in my reread, and it was so good. I love graphic audiobooks. I just don't get the chance to listen to them as much because most of them fall in a genre that I don't read that much of. But this was left in my comment section. It was highly recommended. So I decided that I would pick this one up, and it is sci-fi, and I've been wanting to read more sci-fi. So this fits right in there. So what's happening in this book, it sounds like the main character, Kai, she chooses not to go into the family business and instead enrolls in like the military, but then she gets expelled from the academy, so she has to return home in like disgrace. But she has this task of escorting a ship to the scrapyard, I believe, and somehow finds herself in a war in that process. So that's what it sounds like it's happening. It should be really interesting. War scenes in graphic audiobooks, I think, are really, really well done. So I'm really excited to read this one. And then the last sort of hard book on my list that I want to get to this month is The Hidden Palace by Helene Wicker. And this book is actually a sequel to a book called The Golem and the Genie. And this book came out in 2013, and that's actually when I read it. It was in 2013. And this book that story has really stayed with me. So I think that book is actually probably also one of my all-time favorite fiction books that I've read. It's a historical fantasy, and if you've never read this, I would strongly encourage you to. I really, really enjoyed it. So in that book, and it sounds like in this book as well, Chava, who is a golem, so she's made of clay, and Ahmad, who's a jinn, he's made of fire. They're trying to pass as human in the early 1900s Manhattan. And it sounds like in this book, they're actually going to encounter another golem and jinn. So it seems like it's like a true continuation of that first novel. I'll have to read a synopsis of that somehow, or a summary or something, because it's been such a long time, like 8 years at this point, right? Since that book came out and I read it. So it's been a while. And I was like randomly surprised about this one. I didn't know at all that it was coming out. And so those are all of the main books that I want to get to this month. Obviously, I probably plan to read more than that, but those are the books that I know that I really want to get to. The other thing that I would like to do is I would like to read a book with dragons in it. So like I said, fantasy is probably one of my least read genres, but for the most part, I actually enjoy the fantasy books that I read. And fantasy books with dragons seem to be super duper duper popular, and I just want to know what all the fuss is about. So I want to pick up a highly rated fantasy book with dragons in it. I have two on my short list. The Priory of the Orange Tree seems really, really popular, and it's adult fantasy. And The Shadow of the Gods by John Wynne, which I had mentioned in a poll that I was interested in reading. And that one also is really highly rated, but I hear it's really dark, which I don't actually think I mind. So we'll see which one I decide to read from that list. In the comment section below, let me know what books you are really, really certain that you're planning to get to this month. And in the meantime, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.